Welcome to On Point. I am joined by Dr. Arvind Panagariya, a noted economist and chairman of the 16th Finance Commission on the Prime Minister Narendra Modi's 75th birthday. Modi's tenure has had a profound impact on India's growth trajectory. A lot of people who have worked with him have shared their stories. So, sir, let me begin this conversation by you. Can you share your story with Prime Minister Narendra Modi? What is your story, sir?
All right. So it's a long story, really. But, my association with Prime Minister Modi started when he was still Chief Minister of Gujarat. Around, I think this may have been 2012 or early 2013. This was a time that Gujarat actually was on the map for having performed incredibly well. As this is by the summer of, I think, 2013, a big debate had already opened up on the achievements and accomplishments of Gujarat under Prime Minister or the then Chief Minister Modi, because people are beginning to see that he could very likely be the prime ministerial candidate from the BJP in 2014 elections. And coincidentally, I had been myself studying Gujarat at the time. There was a $2 million project that I had, as a part of which we had studied three major states, Andhra Pradesh, Bihar, and Gujarat. So when I saw the debate, I was a bit surprised, actually, by the vast degree of skepticism towards how well Gujarat had done. There's a lot of very negative commentary that was going on. And so there's the time I wrote actually a couple of articles with serious numbers and what transformation had happened in Gujarat during the 10-year period that the Chief Minister was the Chief Minister at that time. And that's how I think, then that got the attention of the Chief Minister's office. And that's where the association kind of began. And then I visited, actually, coincidentally, Ahmedabad, and also went and saw him for the first time in Gandhinagar. And of course, we clicked quite well at the time. And afterwards, as he began launching his campaign, I became the economist to give him the briefing on the Indian economy. So there was, we went there about, there was a group of us, about 5, 6, but I did, at least in one particular very long briefing, which, we thought we would probably get a couple of hours with him. And that briefing lasted almost 7 hours. He canceled everything and sort of said, okay, keep going. So that's where we are, and then, of course, once he became the Prime Minister, he invited me to head the Niti Aayog. That was in January 2015.
Yes, absolutely. You're one of the few people, the votaries of the Gujarat model at that point of time, I recall. But, sir, how has Prime Minister Modi now, he's in power, in center from 2014, how has he defined India's growth story? If I ask you to sum up, how has Prime Minister done that, sir?
So, if one really wants to see, ask me what I think of Prime Minister Modi, I really think of him as the holistic Prime Minister. I think, his approach is so incredibly holistic, and that's just not over the economy itself. We can talk about that, but in various other fields as well. He thinks about the economy, but he also thinks about defense of the country, internal security, foreign policy, sports, health, you name it. I mean, his canvas is so incredibly wide. And it's not like he's just touching the various aspects of the canvas, but he really paints on that canvas, on every aspect of life that he sees is relevant for the people of India. You see his, footprint or handprint, whichever way you want to put it, quite deeply. So, we can talk about the details, but that is how I see him, that he's really holistic, is not just, well, let's develop such and such, but, he'll actually go and look at, well, Northeast has not done very well. And even from my very early meetings, actually in Gandhinagar, I remember, he would say that, oh, we have neglected Northeast. What are we doing? And sure enough, he has done transformational work actually in the Northeast during the last 11 years.
Absolutely. That is a separate conversation altogether, the Prime Minister's contribution to India's Northeast. I completely agree with you. So, but you also called US tariff as a 1991 movement for India. Let me take this opportunity and ask you, what 5 action must we take to turn this challenge into an opportunity, sir?
Well, I think that's underway. So it's very hard to comment on this right now, but negotiations are underway with the United States. And, the reports that are coming out publicly in the media, which is all I look at, I'm not inside the government. I'm sitting in a commission, which is a constitutional commission. So based on the reports, both from the United States as well as from India, what one is hearing is that the negotiations are very much back on track and things are looking up. So I'm really very much hoping that we will bring to conclusion the negotiations with the United States and the negotiation with the European Union as well. Because I think, those two markets are very, very large. And if we can really open up, more or less frictionless access to those two markets, I think that would mean an incredible change for us in terms of becoming the host to the multinationals, the kind of alternative to China, because everything else is there. I mean, India really has a large economy with a very vast workforce, both skilled and not so skilled, semi-skilled, etc. Everything else is there, and it really is the friction that one sees that still exists in terms of access to the markets. I think if we really overcome those two obstacles, we'll go places.
Absolutely. Sir, you have been speaking about the success stories of the government, but there is also called an unfinished agenda of the government. My question is divided into 2 parts. What are the success stories of the government, and what is that unfinished agenda?
So success stories are just very many. So, I can only describe, take, for example, infrastructure. The manner in which we have built the infrastructure, even, don't have to go to 11 years. Let's look at last 4 or 5 years.
Okay.
It's transformational. See, I was in India for about little less than 3 years, from 2015 to 2017, beginning of 15 to almost close to the September of 2017. And then I returned in February 2024, so about a year and a half ago. And boy, I can see the massive change that has already happened during that period. The highways are just incredible. We, as a part of the Finance Commission's work, we visited all 28 states. I made it to 27 out of 28. I missed one, Arunachal Pradesh. And everywhere we have gone, the road infrastructure is phenomenal. And the same is also true. This I have not experienced, except a couple, the railways. Railway connectivity has also likewise really multiplied, both in terms of speed as well as how many destinations are available, what is the frequency of trains, all that. Air connectivity again, the number of airports, if you look at cities that are connected by air now, probably between 2 to 3 times of what it was in 2014. So infrastructure. Then the digital infrastructure that India has, particularly the public digital infrastructure based on UPI, is unmatched anywhere else. In real time, the way the transactions happen very quickly is just very, very impressive. So you got that. Overall growth, of course, we have grown very well. And this is what also makes me more optimistic that, Prime Minister's goal of 2047 is very much an achievable goal. So growth has happened, and poverty, which is something I do, ultimately, as an economist, for me, poverty reduction is absolutely essential. And you probably, people don't know all the numbers on poverty that have come out. We did a survey very recently for the year 2023-24. It's basically the extreme poverty has crashed. More, I'll give you some figures, I think, just to put this in perspective. So 22% used to be our poverty rate nationwide. This is using the Tendulkar poverty line that we have generally used. That has come down to 3%. That's the national poverty line. But most remarkably, the Prime Minister started off with Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas. That was the theme of his first election, if you remember, and subsequently. So I also do poverty numbers by social groups, by religious groups. And if you look at those numbers, it's just amazing. So, scheduled tribes, for example, that is the poverty hardest to combat. And yet, among the scheduled tribes, not castes, I'll come to scheduled castes, but scheduled tribes, the poverty rate has gone from 41% in 12-13 or 11-12 to 9% in 23-24. So 41 to 9%. Now, other groups, scheduled castes, from 30% to 3%. And then you can look at the OBCs, etc. There's 2%, and the general population itself is about 3%. Now, look at it from the religious group side. So you got among Hindus, the poverty rate went down from 22% to 3% between 11-12 and 23-24. Among Muslims, from 24% to 2%. So today, actually, in these numbers, the poverty ratio for the Muslims is even 1 percentage point lower than what it is for the Hindus. So, this has been all around. And this is, again, what I say, this is a holistic Prime Minister who is really worried about everybody. And that shows up in the numbers. So
basically, sir, you are saying that, people generally talk about Sensex market, but this is something, this is like basic economy. Poor people out of poverty. The basic
Absolutely.
job.
For us, for me as an economist, when I wrote a book called Why Growth Matters, it was precisely this theme that, look, growth is a powerful engine which pulls everybody up. People talk about trickle down, but, my own mentor, Professor Jagdish Bhagwati, and I really thought in terms of pulling up, that when the growth engine kicks in at this very high rate of 7 to 8%, it pulls up people from below into gainful employment and higher incomes. And that really has happened, actually. These are numbers we've just done in the last week or 10 days. I have a co-author, Vishal Moore, who really...
You're absolutely right. That's the basic job of any government, to pull people out of poverty. That's the basic job. Very rightly pointed out, sir. So, but there's, one more issue, there's a lot of talk about MSMEs today. What needs to be done to unshackle the Indian MSMEs? What is your vision about it,
Right. Okay. So that's a very long kind of, detailed reform agenda. We have done a lot of very good reforms on product markets in terms of opening up, the end to the license permit Raj that existed, opening up to trade. I think, that also we have taken fairly far along. There used to be a small scale industries reservation. We have ended that. So product market, I think reform, we have made a pretty solid progress. But in the factor markets, I think we are a little still behind. The labor markets are still a bit rigid. Land markets, urban land. You see, all businesses have to locate in urban areas, or it could be peri-urban, but something, once the businesses get going, even an area which is not initially urban becomes very urban. My favorite example is Shenzhen in China, which in 1980 used to be a bunch of fishing villages, and then things began to transform and all. And today, Shenzhen is, of course, one of the most vibrant urban centers. It's the same conception. So urban land prices are very important for businesses. And in India, again, for a variety of reasons, the urban land prices are extremely high. So we need reforms both in labor markets and in land markets. Capital markets also, but I think there we have made a lot more progress than we have in both the labor markets and in the land markets. So that is somewhat of unfinished agenda. And that kind of, those rigidities have meant that a lot of the investment that we are doing is going very heavily in the only capital intensive industries. As a result of which, a very large part of our population is either self-employed or employed in very small enterprises which employ 10 workers, 8 workers, 9 workers, like that. These are enterprises which don't use a whole lot of capital, and a lot of the skill formation and a lot of the productivity gains happen when workers work with some bit of capital. So, what we have done is, rather than spread capital over a much larger workforce, we have really kind of concentrated it in very heavily capital intensive industries, like petroleum refining, machinery industry, pharmaceuticals, chemical industry, fertilizer industry. That's where all our capital is centered. And that, of course, deprives a large part of the population from access to this capital. And unless you are working on some bit of capital, neither skill formation happens nor high productivity is. And our big resource really is labor. Don't forget, that you've got 500 to 600 million people. The workforce is very large, and that large workforce is your kind of big resource, which needs to be used a bit more effectively. So there, I think China's, all the other countries, like if you look at Taiwan, South Korea, China, these countries, made a bit more effective use of their workforces. We kind of traditionally, because of the 1950s, we went into very heavy industries, if you remember.
Yes, sir.
We were putting steel mills, we were putting up machinery industries, chemical industries, and all. Those were the ones where we invested. So we really, since then have never really returned back to some of the basic labor-intensive industries where you create good jobs for the masses.
Okay. So, we are a strong economy, we are a growing economy, we are surpassing many nations, we have surpassed many European nations, sir. But how can we improve our per capita income, one? And secondly, the second question is, sir, in short period of time, do you see that our capacity to shift from a service-based economy to a product-based economy, which Prime Minister has been speaking about, innovation, tech, product?
Yeah. No, the transition doesn't have to happen tomorrow. It is a gradual process, but that's okay. You can take a 10-year period. But the first thing I want to say is that, I don't think even Prime Minister is saying that he wants, he wants us to not do services. I think sometimes there's this tension that it's an artificial tension that is brought in that, either you do services or you do manufacturing. That's not how I think. I mean, I really kind of think in terms of walking on two legs. One of your legs is services, the other leg is the manufacturing. You have to do both. And we have been fairly successful in services, and there is no reason for us to kind of, lose the lead that we already have in some of these sectors. So what we need to do is continue what we really already do very well, but add on, strengthen the manufacturing. I think strengthening manufacturing is one of the things we really do need to do. And I think certainly that can be done. The whole lesson of the, I would say, post-1991 reforms is that many things we thought were not possible actually have become possible in the last 30 years. I certainly don't, in 1980s, if you asked me, I certainly didn't think we will be where we are today. I mean, it's for somebody my age, who was born in the 1950s, this transformation is absolutely breathtaking. There's no way we could have thought that we will be where we are today. So it can be done.
Okay, it can be done. So, as a head of the 16th Finance Commission, with the recommendations due, and you have been writing about it, the self-sustainability of these states, what's the big picture that is emerging in terms of states becoming physically reliant and states saying that they need more share?
Yeah. So, we can't talk about the Finance Commission work because that's something, at this stage, very confidential, and work is in progress anyway. So it's not, it's like I can tell you. But on the states, you have asked the question.
Yes.
And that I can certainly tell you about.
Please.
That Good, at the state level, very interesting transformation has been underway. There was a time that we always were trying to, through policies, doing all kinds of regional balancing, etc., etc. But in the last 25, 30 years, if you see, the states have kind of begun to sort themselves out. If you look at any of the very successful countries, be it the United States, be it Singapore on the other extreme, be it South Korea, be it Taiwan, whichever country you pick up, be it China, another very large economy, you would see that in the end, where the economic action concentrates well is along the coast. So US, the East Coast and West Coast, that's where all productivity, all output production is. Middle is almost empty. And East Coast and West Coast is also where the population is. Similarly, look at China, south and east part of China, again along the coast, over, like across from Taiwan, across from Hong Kong, etc. That's also on the coast. And of course, Singapore is a port kind of city, more or less. And same story with South Korea and Taiwan. I mean, where are people in South Korea? They're all in Seoul. I mean, practically 75, 80% of the population is in Seoul. Even in India, if you look at the states now, at least as it stands currently, it may change, of course, and I hope it does change. Some of the 7 or 8 of our states, which are the highest per capita income states, pretty much look around the coast. You got Tamil Nadu, you got Kerala, you got Karnataka, you got Maharashtra, Gujarat, the ones on Goa. Only 2 states out of the 8, which are the highest per capita income states, are Telangana and Haryana. Telangana was part of Andhra Pradesh, which is coastal, and Haryana is the only one, therefore. But both of these, Telangana and Haryana, basically, even though they are landlocked, they are hooked up into the global economy because they are the tech. They are both driven by tech. Haryana is Gurgaon and Telangana is Hyderabad and so forth. So it is all, the states have sorted themselves out in a way, that I never thought would happen in India. Because remember, the way we were doing the development was very different. We were trying to put it all, everything, 2 industries here, 2 there, etc. Steel mills in 3 different parts of the world, of the country, etc. But in the end, the market has sorted itself out. So that, I think, for me, was the most interesting discovery.
So you said in 1980, you couldn't imagine the way India has grown in last couple of years. Now I'm asking you, in 2025, so do you think that we can become a 10 trillion economy by 2035 and Viksit Bharat by 2047?
We will. I think we will. I mean, I'm very upbeat, and when you're looking at that longer period, anything can happen, I mean, like COVID happened, and so we had a sudden kind of drop in the growth rate. In fact, we had, for 1 year, 2021, we had a negative growth rate of about 5.8%. So anything can happen in this sense, but insofar as we can predict, both of those actually, that India becoming about 10 trillion by 2035, very much feasible actually. And similarly, Viksit Bharat by 2047, yes, that's also very feasible. And I'll tell you why. I mean, it's not like, in Hindi we say कि क्या हवा में बात कर रहे हो. That's not what I don't want you to leave you with that impression. Okay. So let me give you some numbers. Okay. So 2003-04 to 2017-18, we grew in dollar terms, in nominal dollars. In nominal dollars, we grew about 12% a year. Okay. Now, in real terms, if I convert it, that's a growth rate of about 9.8%, because the GDP, the US GDP deflator, remember dollar. So we have to look at the GDP deflator of the United States, which was about 1.9% or something. So when you back out the real growth rate in dollar terms, that's about 9.8%. So you can think, we grew in nominal dollars 12%, from 2003-4 to 17-18. Now, we had then a bit of a setback initially because of the some bit of turmoil that happened from the non-performing assets in the financial markets, and that NBFC crisis happened. That
Yes.
one of the
Yes.
NBFCs was had to be saved and all. That plus the COVID impact. But even if we take the longer period, 2003-4, all the way to 23-24. We still clocked about something like 10% nominal GDP growth in dollars, nominal dollars. That's in nominal dollars. And if you work out actually if in nominal dollars, if we do that even 10%, inclusive of the financial market stress that we had, inclusive of the COVID pandemic and all, with that, and of course the global financial crisis in 2008. Over this entire long period, we have managed to grow about 10% in dollar terms. So apply that 10% growth rate. So we're very conservative in this sense, because I'm not taking that 12%, which was until 2017-18. Even with that 10%, if you do today's GDP, you'll get to 10 trillion actually by 2035.
Oh, absolutely, sir. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me on Point and speaking elaborately on India's economy, and that too on the day of Prime Minister Modi's birthday. So you were watching On Point. Thank you for watching this special show. I'll see you tomorrow at the same time.